So the next thing I'm gonna do is add a camera because we need a new layer. So I'm gonna go to, actually need to click in the timeline here, layer, and I'm gonna do new camera, okay? And I'm just gonna use one node camera. That's gonna be a little easier for you. You could use two nodes, which is gonna, you'd be able to turn it as well as pan it or whatever. That gives you two different directions, but I'm just gonna do one. It'll be easier for you that way. And you can see nothing really happens here. But what I'm going to do is right here it says active camera. So we're looking at the front view basically. So if I need to pick one of these to show where the camera is. So I'm going to do front, okay? So my camera is in the front, and this is the lens looking at my composition. Okay? And so if I want to pan it across, I'll just do that, okay? And the focal point, it'll just pan across that right there. Okay, now I'm going to go to the top, which is usually the best way to look at it, and you're going to see that it looks like this. Hold on a sec. Let me get this out here, and this is the focal point of that right here. So it's the camera is looking this way, and the focal point is there. I'm going to shorten this up a little bit because it's a little bit too short. Okay, so I'm gonna turn it on. Let me just do focus distance. You could do focus distance. You could do zoom. Okay, you could zoom in. I'm gonna leave it like it is. You can play with that. But one of the things I want to animate for this is I just want it to pan through the logo. Now the logo is right here. You can't really see it, but let me just show you from the front view. So if I pan this, okay, it's just going to just pan across the image. Okay, so I'm going to go back to top because what I want it to do is I want it to start out of frame and then pan around to the frame. Okay, all right. So I'm going to start here. That's where my camera's going to start, okay, and that's position. So I'm going to position it here, okay, and then I'm going to take it and move this. Actually, it's the orientation I'm moving, so I'm going to click the orientation, and I'm going to pan it this way, and then by the time it gets, actually, I got to start back here. Hold on just a sec. So I'm going to take it, and by the time it gets here, I want it to be panned that way, okay? All right, so let's take a look at what it looks like from the active camera, okay? So this is what it's going to look like. The logo's spinning, but the camera pans across, okay? All right, so if we look at the top, I just want you to take a look at this. So this is the logo. It's very flat. And the camera's just going to pan across it, okay? So you can play with that a little bit, all right? Okay, the next thing is, and you might want to use active camera for this next step, is I'm going to add a light, okay? So right now, if I add a light here, I'm not going to be able to see any difference, so I'm just going to pan it to about right here. And then I'm going to add a light layer. So I'm just going to go to layer, new, light. Okay, I'm going to use a spotlight because it's just easier to use right now. But if you want to play with the different types of lights, you go in there and try that. I'm just going to use a spotlight so it's kind of focused on the logo, and I'll click OK. And you're going to see the light here. Okay, so the light, if we take a look at, if I spin it, okay, you can see how that light is changing. Let me fit that in the window. Okay, I'm going to make it fit in the window. Okay, so here's my light, and I can do a lot of stuff with it. I can turn it that way. I can move it up and down, okay? What I'm going to do here, just for example, or we can tilt it as well, okay? What I'm going to do here is I'm just going to make it pan across the light as it's coming right into view here. So I'm going to start it dark, okay? So let's do what we're going to do is do a light option, transform orientation is there. And then by the time it gets, I might want to start it a little earlier. By the time it gets over here, I want it to turn this way, okay? So we have two keyframes, so you're going to see that it comes into view. We see the light pans around, and it comes back around and gives it a little bit of color right there at the end, okay? So you just need to go in and play with position, and remember that you have all types of controls here. You can, let me go back in here, okay? We can change the rotation, okay? We can change the focus point. We can change how it pans as well. You can set keyframes for all those orientations, okay? So you just got to get in and kind of experiment with those. There are a couple videos on LinkedIn that show you a little more in depth, but that should be good enough for you to get going on this assignment. For the other assignment, basically you're just using those elements to create an animated infographic, just like you're just going to animate in, just like you did your text in your kinetic typography. You're just going to make it, you can, now that you have some tools, you can make it float in 3D, you can make it move in, you can make it flip. So you're going to need 4 data points for that. So let me just show you here. File, save. Actually, let me go ahead and render this. So when we do render this, one of the better things that I do is just I add it to the render queue, okay? Just a little quicker. And what it's going to do is I'm going to choose this, and this is best settings. It's at full resolution. The rest of it usually is pretty good for setup, okay? So if you're getting really low res images, you might want to try best, okay? And then I'm going to use H.264. This is really usually the best format. I have RGB, okay? And that, all the rest of that is fine. And then I want to tell it where to output it to. So I'm outputting it to week number 3 in 4200, okay? And I'll call it logo 1, okay? And I'll click save, and I'm going to hit render. This seems to be a little quicker, okay? So you might want to use that. And if we look at the final project or product here, okay? Let me go here and open this up so you can kind of see it right here. If we look at the final here, here's my logo 1. I'm just going to open it and play it. Again, you need to upload this to Vimeo or YouTube. There it goes. Okay. So that's good for this assignment. For the other assignment, use these settings, but you're going to need different data points. So I just put these in different Adobe Illustrator files. I opened up the original file, open with Adobe Illustrator, and copied and pasted them into a new document, okay? And you'll see that I have all the different, I have them separate. It's a little easier to do it separate than to do it all together, okay? All right, so just let me know if you have any questions, and I'll talk to you later.